Alright, esports fans, welcome back to the AEL Uni League Semester 1 playoff. Season 1 for 2021 is at its real climax right now. The crescendo, the culmination of everything that these various teams have worked for throughout the season so far over the last couple of months. And the teams tonight we have for you, 5Headelaide and USYD No Tinker, University of Adelaide, University of Sydney, clashing in a critical lower bracket best of 3. This is of course an elimination series, so unfortunately we'll be saying goodbye to one of these proud educational institutions, one of these teams tonight that we've watched and enjoyed so much throughout the season. But before we get into the game, I'd like to bring a special message from one of our sponsors, AOC. They are our monitor sponsor here, and they have a message that they would like me to give to you. They have launched the first ever monitor crafted for League of Legends. Yes, League of Legends represented in its every aspect, from the iconic Hextech design and logo to a specific game setting mode. In-game visuals achieve their fullest potential from the combination of AOC's monitor expertise with the creators of League of Legends Riot Games. So check out the Aegon Pro AG275 QXL today at au.aoc.com if you are of course looking for a League of Legends optimized monitor. Hey, perhaps that's also a monitor optimized for Dota 2, the game that we are casting tonight. Of course, we are fully focused on the Dota. It's been a busy week in Dota 2. We've had the major going on, and I wonder whether or not the drafting and sort of heavy acceleration of the meta that we always see from these major tournaments will be influencing the teams we have tonight. I'm sure all of them have been watching, and of course we've got our own meta that's always evolving here in AEL as well. So we're going to have to see how much that influences the picks, but it looks like the draft's starting right now, so we can get into the match. USYD No Tinker, captain now for the draft by Asian Turtle Frenzy, up against 5Headelaide, as you can see there. Captained by WDK, the UOA cheerleader. That's appropriate. You got to be a cheerleader for yourself, folks. You gotta feel the energy. You gotta talk it up. You gotta be your own biggest fan, and that's what WDK is. Not only for himself, but for his entire team. Not a big fan of Invoker or Pugna, though. Those heroes banned. Have to agree with the Pugna ban. That hero has been an absolute menace at the major. And another hero that's been very menacing, of course, is Mars. It's really become the Dota 2 offlaner. It's interesting, isn't it? Like a few years ago, this hero wasn't in the game, wasn't even in Dota 1. But in the time that Mars has been with us, he really has come to exemplify everything the teams want from the modern offlane. But this is the new breed. This is the new flesh. Underlord, one of my favorite heroes in the game, received a revamp, obviously, of his ultimate, and now is absolutely trucking through it. Picked up by 5Headelaide immediately alongside the Grimstroke. No hesitation at all, so you can tell they have been planning out these drafts a little bit. Obviously provides some insane late-game scaling. Just the amount of teamfight control that you get out of Pit of Malice and the global mobility that you gain from the Dark Rift, or the Fiend's Gate, I believe it's now called, the ultimate for the global travel. Teams that are well coordinated can use this very effectively, and Grimstroke, of course, very powerful laner as well. So whether or not those two are together, you know, your off lane is looking quite secure. USYD, though, they go back for the Tinker. Pretty effective counter there. Both of those heroes not really especially great at egg breaking, in particular the Underlord, and Phoenix is one of the supports can, you know, stand well out of range of Grimstroke and fly in. We have seen some interesting scenes of Phoenixes trying to swoop in to land an egg and accidentally colliding with the tether radius of a Grimstroke ultimate that's being cast on a different allied hero. It's a hard play to really make with full intentionality as the Grimstroke, but it is something to look out for. But obviously there's a lot more left to come in this draft. We're going through our middle bans right now. These teams wasting very little time, very aware of what they want. We've got USYD banning out a lot of carries. They'd already removed Undying in the first phase along with Juggernaut, and now they're following that up with Lifestealer, Bloodseeker, and Medusa. So all probably one position heroes being banned out here, but one position heroes with quite a different profile. It's very interesting. Okay, banning out the Juggernaut and the Lifestealer is pretty normal. If you're going to pick the Mars, those heroes tend to sort of laugh at him both in and out of lane as much as any carry player can. But Medusa and Bloodseeker seem to be just more carry heroes that are on the mind, and 5Headelaide in return, they have been taking out some mid laners as well as the Phantom Assassin, removing the Puck and the Pangolier. So really don't want those mid-game teamfight controllers. It's possible that they're clearing the way for something like a CK carry pick. We've got already 2 strength heroes on the side of 5Headelaide, and it does seem like Dota 2 is trending back towards a meta where you pick a lot of strength heroes, and I'm always fond of those. CK, of course, very, very powerful as a strength safe lane carry right now. Can also be played in other roles for its utility, but with Underlord already on the team, it seems unlikely that you would pivot that out of the off lane just to give it to a Chaos Knight when the safe lane is right there. Chaos Knight Grimstroke, obviously a very powerful combination as well, but USYD, they didn't ban it, but that's because they were planning to steal it themselves. They already had a solid counter. I thought they might be leaving it in the pool, but they read what I read in the 5Headelaide draft, and they managed to get their hands on that highly contested safe lane pickup right as we go into the last stage of bans. They also snap up the Winter Wyvern, so another sort of prominent counter to the CK. It's not 100% as a hard counter as some people like to sort of imagine. Winter Wyvern really ends illusion-based heroes like that, but it is still an effective pickup against the CK, so to grab it on your team, it's some good insurance. It's also obviously denying the pick to 5Headelaide, because of course this Snapfire, it is a WDK special, but of late we have been seeing more Snapfires sneak their way back into the mid lane, finding a lot of success. The hero does scale quite well through talents and with that little shredder spell, and obviously having its first key items and having the level 2 Mortimer Kisses, even the level 1 Mortimer Kisses up earlier, is very potent. So, you know, considering that 5Headelaide do have that option to flex snap into the mid potentially, USYD still looking to deny them a viable second support. So ball back in 5Headelaide's court here. They're really thinking about these last couple of bans, as they should. You know, we've got a full 70 seconds left of extra time. This is an elimination final series, so if there was ever a time to take things slow and steady, it would be now. Of course, both these teams are in the lower bracket for a reason. 5Headelaide got bounced in the AU derby by UO Andros 2-0, while USYD No Tinker, they put up a slightly better fight. They took a map off the UQ Super Warrior Chads, but still went down 2-1. So both of these teams have already tasted defeat in their most recent series. I'm sure none of them are like too bent out of shape about it. You know, it's Dota. Everyone experiences defeat all the time. But you know, maybe it'll be weighing on their minds a bit more. They're definitely making sure they don't get outpicked in the draft. They don't fall to any sort of cheese strat. They're not missing any of the new heroes that have come through. 5Headelaide, they go to a very safe, conservative pick if I've ever seen one. The Razor. Almost kind of hidden away there behind the giant models of Underlord and Snapfire, but obviously going to be very prominent in-game. Pretty decent choice against the CK, I have to say. I mean, Razor to me always strikes me as the carry pick when you are afraid of your carry pick getting bursted, as well as obviously a counter to carry heroes who aren't supremely mobile or super burst heavy. So CK obviously just likes to roll around in the fights in a blob of illusions, and assuming you can find the correct CK, probably not too hard with the Plasma Field, a static link on the CK should help keep him useless in the fights. They might even, I mean, they have the Underlord already, but they might even choose to lane the Razor into the CK. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But when teams have seen success against Chaos Knight carry in this major that's sort of live right now, they have done so by shutting it down at all phases of the game, right? This is not a hero with a built-in tremendous farming ability. You can do a little bit with the crit and the Phantasm as they are now, but still doesn't scale as well as some, it doesn't accelerate as much as some other carry heroes do. So if you can shut down the laning phase and have a favorable carry matchup against it in the team fights, you can kind of make this Chaos Knight pick look as mediocre as it has been for most of Dota's history, and Razor will hopefully be able to do that despite quite an array of sort of focused damage and control coming out from USYD No Tinker. At least you've picked a carry that can rush BKB or other defensive items, and then they've followed that up with bans on Void Spirit and Storm Spirit. So obviously USYD very likely to be last picking a mid laner. In fact, both teams seemingly holding on to their mid pick till last. USYD have banned out Ember Spirit, sure, so all three of the usual mid spirits removed, but also Sand King, which has been seeing almost as much mid play as off lane play lately. To mixed success, I'll say. Some teams and some players seem to have the hang of the mid SK more than others. It's also very much kind of a feast or famine mid laner, even seeing players like Toronto Tokyo, current defending TI champion, flubbing a few games on the mid SK can be a little tricky at times, since you are, obviously, a melee hero, a special kind of melee hero, but you're still a melee hero in the mid lane, so some matchups are pretty miserable for you, and then you're really dependent on being able to lead your team in rotations around the map. So if either you or your team aren't ready to make those plays, the hero can fall off, or you can lead to yourself sort of stealing farm from your carry or exposing yourself. It's hard to say it's a bad mid pick, but it is different to most other mid heroes in some significant ways. And USYD, they seem more comfortable banning it out against 5Headelaide. We'll see what they do with their last pick here. They do presumably need another source of damage, because Mars will be rushing that Blink Dagger. You can't always guarantee he's going to completely pop off and scale. And Phoenix and Winter Wyvern, pretty low contributors in terms of damage, at least in terms of burst or focus damage. Phoenix can kind of put it out. Even Wyvern does a bit. You can sometimes hit a clutch curse. But they are, I'd say they're looking for a Tinker, but no, they go back and grab the Keeper of the Light, so perhaps this is actually a mid-Wyvern. I couldn't imagine it being any sort of core coddle pick, but a mid-Winter Wyvern. She has had some more slight buffs to her skills, particularly her Q, the Winter's Breath, in a way that, or the Arctic Breath, in a way that increases her core potential. I think the duration was extended, so I don't dislike this. It's been a few patches since we saw, I think it was Tundra's 9, really wrecking pro games on the Midwinter Wyvern. It was sort of a more common pick there briefly. The hero was a little bit overpowered at the time, just having that basically Beastmaster Roar in the ultimate that it could also attack into freely. It just kind of proved to be a bit obnoxious. But after some slight nerfs and some time out of the spotlight, perhaps this final series will be the chance for the mid-Wyvern to return and flourish. Don't know that for sure, but that would be my read on the draft. So 5Headelaide, if they read the same, what can they do here? They've banned out the Spirits, but having a backline diver wouldn't be the worst here. Snapfire is going to have some real focus split here. You've got to try and bring down both the Coddle, Will-o-the-Wisp, potentially, and the Phoenix Egg with a Mars Arena in the way. You'd kind of want a mobile ranged hero, something with high attack speed. They could go a Lina. Lina at least has the range to try and stay out of a lot of these spells, but it is a very squishy hero. I haven't seen a Wind Ranger mid in forever, so I'm probably discounting that. But, okay, we go the opposite route. We go for something ranged, yes, but tanky. We follow up with the third strength hero, almost a fourth strength hero, when you consider Razor kind of a strength hero in spirit, and it's a pretty nice draft out of 5Headelaide. They're certainly beefy. They have a lot of tower pressure, definitely looking to take control in the early game, but USYD No Tinker, some fearsome stuff. Actually, Sir Ramen Noodles taking up the Keeper of the Light. Is this actually a mid-coddle? I swear Sir Ramen Noodles is almost always their mid lane. We'll have to see when we get into game. Suddenly, something very exciting here from our lower bracket round 1 finals series here. USYD No Tinker against 5Headelaide. Who will stay in Season 1 of AEL Uni League for Dota 2? Who will fall out in humiliation? We'll see how we go here. And beautiful Phoenix there, of course, from Asian Turtle Frenzy. Beautiful Underlord Sazy, looking for a great showing here. Really hope you flex the Underlord, one of my favorite heroes, obviously. Got to make sure that that is going well for your team, obviously. They have a lot more at stake than I do, but everyone loves a good Underlord game, don't they? But as we get into the game, of course, we will quickly make sure that we are thanking our other sponsors. We already gave you the updated message from AOC about their new monitor. But have you also heard the good word about our parts sponsor, Predator? They are the gaming PC partner of the AEL. Conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming. Predator put power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience in every way with quality and performance thanks to Predator. And of course, Rig, our headset sponsor, they have what it takes to win. They develop headsets that deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. Join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience. And yeah, make sure you check out all of our sponsors here at AEL. Of course, as we get into the game now, looking at a lot of heroes milling about here in the top lane. And Danilku on the Razor, gonna find a couple of Radiant heroes here. Balance has skilled that God's Rebuke, so no spear to help encourage a level 1 kill. Danilku has the static link as well, which is pretty good, discouraging those sorts of kills, but still a lot of health burned off the Razor. Probably going to have to go back to base and TP to lane, which, you know, they're small things, but it does mean that if there is an early kill made on this Razor, you're going to be looking at that dreaded walk of shame back from base for your TP on cooldown. Now, luckily, you don't expect a lot of kill potential out of the Mars Phoenix off lane, but you never know. This would be the time to pull out something very special, some tricky play that nets you that first blood here in the finals. Balance, yeah, they're looking feisty today, and it is in fact Sir Ramen Noodles on the mid, Keeper of the Light. I haven't seen this in quite a while. Goes back to when the Null Talisman changes, the last round of them went through a while back. Those got nerfed directly because this color pick was too powerful. In a kind of really bland macro sense, it was just like slightly too good at clearing creeps with Illuminate, but we'll see if Sir Ramen Noodles can bring it back. He is a very fast running gank contributor in the early game. Perhaps you're going to counter-rotate against the Underlord. Perhaps there's some special item build coming out. I'm very excited to see. In the meantime, though, Loved on this CK, going to be having a tricky time in the bottom lane. Got a bit of support from Upper, but this is definitely the biggest difference that I can detect between these two drafts. The support lineup out of the side of USYD is pretty soft. Like Phoenix and Wyvern, they're certainly not killing heroes in the early game, and with their lengthy cooldowns, they're just not necessarily huge contributors to any sort of laning phase presence. CK obviously no slouch, as you can see here, actually bullying Fingerfab, going for the first blood. Fingerfab just overextending slightly, but the stun duration on the Chaos Bolt expires just in time, pops that Fairy Fire that he luckily has. Huge trades going on, and that was actually a big win for the Radiant. I'm just talking about how weak USYD's laning presence is, but they had the creep advantage there somewhat, and it was definitely them getting more damage out of their creep wave, getting more damage out of their range support there. He was able to chip away the entire time, doing some considerable damage, so that's where play mechanics can come into it. But Asian Turtle Frenzy at the top lane, that's more what I expected to see. I think he was trying to drag the creep wave away, but didn't have the dive, still only a level 1 Phoenix, so no escape mechanism, and both UOA heroes meet him there and just kill him with the help of their creeps. Poor Fragile Phoenix just having no recourse in that situation, so gives over first blood to the enemy carry, no less. Danilku going to be very happy about that. This is kind of an interesting Danilku hero. Not saying that Danilku cannot play this hero, of course, but we've seen Danilku play a lot of very hard farming heroes. We see Appa, actually, they're looking to exploit the other support now. Sizey even pulls the neutral creeps in to help him out. Can they get the last attack? Appa weaving in and out of the trees to dodge sight. Can he get there? Fairy Fire's kept him alive for a while, and a big stun out of Loved, but I think Appa realizes that his time on this earth is short regardless, and turns to throw out a final Splinter Blast, which gives Sizey the last hit, so now 2-0 in favor of UOA. The 5Headelaide squad going to be very happy with how this started, but yeah, Danilku typically known for very hard farming, exhilarating carries, heroes that want to buy a couple of farming items and go. Razor can definitely play like that, especially if your lanes are going well. Sometimes you're happy to just sit there and just farm and farm and farm and extend your lead. But perhaps going to see something a little bit more dynamic in terms of playstyle, moving a bit more with the team, going for more objectives early out of one of our sterling core players here in the AEL. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Sir Ramen Noodles slightly leading the CS over TK, so good stuff for the mid cuddle. Just maxing Illuminate and Chakra, as you'd expect. Not that much call for Solar Bind, probably not in this lane to solo kill a Dragon Knight, so no need for the slow and magic resist reduction just yet. But I'm interested to see whether we will find that soon. It seems like really the point of this pick might just be, as it used to be when teams were feeding Gold to Coddle, to get the Ags as soon as possible and have that Will-o'-the-Wisp up as a second egg, sort of a second extra objective in team fights. Maybe even going to rush the new Wraith Totem item as well, to just provide way too many things for the Dire to actually attack down with their autos, since no one on this team really auto-attacks that hard. But that's all base speculation. Asian Turtle Frenzy still copping some pretty heavy harassment in this off lane. You can see the Mars keeping up with the Razor at least. You know, Mars pretty hard to drive out. They're going to go for him now, actually making a play here with the Grimstroke spells. Silence into Inkswell. They've already done half of Balance's health, and crucially, he's lost 72 damage to the level 2 static link of Danolku, so that's going to push him back, but they do sort of just run out of juice at that point. No more kill potential left. Support brawl in the bottom lane. Fingerfap has Mango into Cookie if he thinks this can be a kill. Skipping out on that early point in Little Shredder that used to be kind of the reason for the season with this hero. Instead, just maxing the nukes early on. Can't say I blame him either. Underlord, not a hero that really requires a lot of minus armor to pop off in the laning phase, like some of the other partners we see for the snap. Actually, Fingerfap gets killed in the bottom lane, just kind of overextends, overcommits to that play. Sizey rotates over to try and bring down Appa, but it is actually him who loses his support as Love rotates in. Just that stun, crucially making the difference. No Pit of Malice points up yet on Sizey, just maxing the main laning skills. Atrophiora and Firestorm now tries to turn with those spells. Was taking a lot of damage there, but the Underlord pretty tough to bring down. Fingerfap's back in the lane, but that is the first blood drawn. Points on the board here for the side of USYD No Tinker. WDK making another run down at the top lane. He's running the Inkswell at the Mars. Could have turned onto Asian Turtle Frenzy, but without the silence on the Phoenix, you know that Phoenix is just going to be able to swoop away now. No longer level 1, of course, like it was when that first kill happened. I'm just watching this bottom lane. Sizey playing around here on very low hit points, has the Soul Ring up on the Underlord. It's a little bit awkward now on these offlaners now that it no longer provides actual regen. If you don't have some sort of inbuilt regen passive like the Underlord or the Timbersaw, it can be problematic. Danolku, they immediately pounce on him as soon as Grimstrike leaves the lane, but he puts up the static link and that causes them to break things off. Still burns some resources from the Razor. And these side lanes are very intense, but mid lane currently is not. The only intense warfare going on here is the economic battle, and Sir Ramen Noodles, you can see there, trying to farm both easy camps, but actually outplayed. TK has sentry blocked his own easy camp to prevent the Coddle from farming it with the max level Illuminate, but that's not going to slow down Sir Ramen Noodles for long. Already has that ultimate form up and firing off the max level Illuminate. Has stacked his own hard camp. Loved actually brings down Sizey, so this offlane, which I predicted might be tricky for the CK, it's starting to turn around. That's the power of this hero, but Fingerfap skills Little Shredder there at the last second, turns and fires, and the minus armor and damage from that spell, plus a couple of tower hits buffed up a bit by that armor shred, are able to return the kill onto the enemy carry, so losing a lot of that gold, presumably, that he just got if he didn't purchase those components. Still, CK about to hit level 6, looking the goods right now. TK also doing well on the DK in the mid. Not quite as exploding in terms of farm as the Keeper is, but of course, the difference between gold on a Coddle and gold on a DK is pretty considerable in terms of what it actually does for your team. Or is it? I mean, you'd imagine that if USYD No Tinker didn't believe in this, then they would not be running it in a finals elimination BO3. And of course, Sir Ramen Noodles does have the Boots of Travel up already now. So if you were interested, this is the sort of gameplay that you hope for when you pick a mid like Coddle or Snapfire. WDK making a play on Mars at top. It's the hope that you can get involved early, not just mop up all the farm on the map, which obviously those boots are going to help to do. Actually, they're engaging on this at top. I thought they were breaking things off as Asian Turtle Frenzy swooped in. Maybe wishes he had. WDK snipes him with the level 2 Stroke of Fate. Great Grimstroke play as well. Maybe gonna, get the creeps off of Danolku here, so it's no traded kill there, just to pick up for the Dire. For the side of UOA, 5Headelaide, looking the goods right now. Balance gets the spear on Danolku. That's what you get. WDK can't hit that stroke. That's very unfortunate, but I mean, you stick around in lane on spearing health. You're just asking for it. You're backing yourself to dodge the projectile, and it's a pretty tough projectile to dodge. Balance hitting the bullseye there and bring down the enemy carry. That's, as big a skill shot action as you'll probably ever see in a high-stakes Dota 2 game. And so just as TK moves to the bottom lane, exploiting that Dragon Form to try and put some pressure on the safe lane tower of No Tinker, we can see that the Coddle of Sir Ramen Noodles is up here nuking out the top lane. Of course, not actually putting pressure on that tower. Coddle doesn't quite have the tower killing power that the DK does. And with the Razor still committed to this safe lane, you're not really interested in taking a scrap there. So instead, as we watch Appa die defending this bottom tier one, the Coddle will just farm out the Razor's jungle as a sort of more passive-aggressive form of interference. Now moves to the bottom lane, announces his presence with the Illuminate. And that'll see off the Dire heroes. Their Crate Wave exploded in an instant. And yeah, Illuminate, a very powerful spell at this stage in the game when you have it at max level already, plus 2 Null Talismans, obviously not boosting up the damage of the spell directly anymore. But, you know, the ability to spam that out and reducing the mana cost. You can just see him casting non-stop. Actually kills off Sizey. Bit of help there from Love rolling in from the side. Presumably that was the Chaos Bolt to lock him in place. Plus the Blinding Light. There's actually a lot of tools to make sure that these 500 damage plus Illuminates lands. And I say plus because we do have points in Solarbind. You can see Fingerfap getting completely destroyed. A killing spree here for Sir Ramen Noodles. With those Null Talismans and those Boots of Travel, this Coddle is super fast, high damage auto attacks, laying down those Illuminates and just unleashing those. That move speed also allows you to ensure that the Blinding Light knocks people back. So really a scary hero at this point in the game. But TK, scary in his own right on this Dragon Knight, rocking his own pile of stats through those braces and getting the kill on the enemy offlaner. Balance going down there as they try to pressure the enemy safe lane. Asian Turtle Frenzy has to watch out, gets stroked as the Phoenix. His dive is down, but it looks like they're out of long range spells to force this re-engagement. They're going to put pressure on the tower, but guess who's here? They see you trying to push early on the side of UOA, and Sir Ramen Noodle says, that won't be happening under my watch, boys. The Keeper of the Light is going to be the Keeper of the Towers in this game, even more so than usual. A lot of the time, you maybe don't have the firepower with the Maxed Illuminate and Chakra to stand up to a strong enemy push, or you yourself are too vulnerable, squishy, underleveled Coddle support, but not today. He's at 121 last hits to 69 as the next highest on the DK. Now, obviously, some of those are slightly less valuable neutral creeps, but you can still see here, 1.5k gold ahead in a match where the gold difference between the teams is only 2k. That is a lot of work being put in by the Coddle. It puts in even more here. Fingerfap trampled by the Horses of Light, the Riders in... The Riders on the wavelength here, trampling both supports of UOA. WDK knew it was coming, but Sir Ramen Noodles didn't even need to full channel that one. Just blows him over, and this is the thing about Illuminate, right? Like, if you're caught in the open, you're a slow-moving support at this stage of the game, people don't really have mobility items or even upgraded boots. Quite hard to get out of the way on, and even later on, Sir Ramen Noodles is just going to point this at where the fight's happening. If you want to get out of the way, you can. But it is painful to have to constantly juke out of this Illuminate spam. He's using all of the regen on himself. And yes, Coddle mid cheese fans everywhere rejoice. We do have a Dagon pickup. TK kind of facing down that magic damage. Didn't put too much of a scratch on the DK, only bringing him to about half health. But you have to imagine, if that connects with anyone else on this team, even the Razor or the Underlord, they have to be very afraid. Lots and lots of magic damage coming out of this Radiant draft. Sizey, I mean, he's able to get that tier 1 tower finally, but Sir Ramen Noodles, he's never far. The Boots of Travel mean that he can still arrive in the lane, and Loved was just on standby in the neutral, so they combine for another kill on this Underlord. He's only at 4,000 gold. The hero does farm well, also not the most item dependent. You can see getting close to that Rod of Eidos regardless, which is really the big core item. Make the Pit of Malice work and try and keep this pesky Coddle in one place. Speaking of, Winter Wyvern not going anywhere in the mid lane. TK lands that Dragon Tail into the follow-up stun from Fingerfap with the cookie, and that's all she wrote for Upper. So, 9 to 8 in the kills, both teams trading, but it's pretty uneven. It's pretty much just the mid laners and other cores feasting on the enemy supports, especially for the side of USYD. So Ramen Noodle's going berserk right now. Already has the Dagon too. We're maxing that out. TK, he's decided he's had enough. He's going to challenge the enemy mid laner directly. They get the bind off from Grimstroke, but the egg in response, it's not enough to save Ramen Noodles. Just the delay that they had, but it is enough to keep the egg alive. They can't get both, and now that the egg pops, it buys time to get the arena, but with their Coddle out of the way, there's no rotation from the CK, and that stun from the DK comes up in time. The Dragon Tail cancelling out the Phoenix Sunray before it could be turned onto him. And so that was a perilously close teamfight. Close enough that Loved actually arrives. Having just finished his armlet, he arrives a day late to the battlefield. His team already in shambles. He can't even pick up a consolation kill on the way out. That's a big exchange. That Coddle is worth so much money. A lot of gold invested already to have those bots and that Dagon. But the tanky strength lineup here, I mean, these are obviously enough magic damage will bring down anything, you know, Shades of Evil Geniuses at TI a few years ago, but, or a lot of years ago at this point. But, I mean, you can see how it just isn't as effective against the heavy strength heroes, and Sizey, wow, gets that Fiend's Gate and just gets the hell out of there. Portals right out of that situation, and lucky he did too. Only escaped on a sliver of hit points. So, some classic Underlord ult usage there. We haven't seen the ganking Fiend's Gate yet. Not even the tower gank or the Roshan gank Dark Fiend's Gate. But I'm sure that we will at some point soon. And Saisi just about has his key ganking item up now that in the Atos. Bit of a smoke. Balance has no arena, but it'll be up in a few seconds. And so Ramen Noodles is always ready to fight. Really interesting to see him continuing to max his Dagon instead of going for that Aghanims. But I guess they are lacking damage, you could argue. So they're going to be lacking it even more as Appa, unfortunately, he wasn't in that smoke, and whether they figured out that his team were nearby, invisible or not, they pounce on the Wyvern, and that discourages any further aggression. It is space created for this CK, though. Loved has been prioritizing the farm, will finally take out the Dire tier 1 in the bottom, really opening up this bottom side of the map. Lots of space now, no towers for either team, and you do have to be aware of the Dark Rift, though. That is one nice thing of the Fiend's Gate. I'm going to keep getting that wrong. Sorry. The Underlord Ultimate. As we see, actually, TK dominating streak of his own end. It's a bit of revenge for Sir Ramen Noodles. Looks like the Dragon Knight just hung around in mid lane a little too long after the rest of the team broke off to farm. And you can only imagine how that catch happens, right? Balance has the spear, Blink now ready. So Ramen Noodles has the knockback and the slow. So they definitely have the tools to isolate and kill even a tanky Dragon Knight. You are not invulnerable at this point in the game if you are TK. And Danolku senses that the relentless current of movement from Sir Ramen Noodles has headed up to his lane, and he's about ready to leave that anyway. So he says sayonara, heads to mid. They really want to strike back and take this enemy tier 1 tower, but Razor still a long way off the BKB, and I'm sure he really wants that before they super commit to these fights. I mean, this Coddle is continuing to just super accelerate on farm. I guess this is the reason why I've picked these two supports, right? Like, I was focusing Wyvern and Phoenix, definitely both supports who are a little bit soft in the early game, but also supports don't necessarily need a huge amount of items. You might just want some sort of mobility or cast range item on the Wyvern, and they obviously can scale, but this is a game where even your Mars is stinging a little bit for farm. It's just being vacuumed up by the Coddle, except for the CK's lane. Unfortunately, the CK's lane is the one they're predating right now. I talked about the gank from the Fiend's Gate that was going to potentially target the CK in this supposedly safe lane, but they just wrap on him with a smoke. Maybe he feels a false sense of security because he can see where Saisi is on the map. The rest of them just close in, and now they're going to close in on this tier 2. Ramen Noodles teleporting in behind the tower on the Coddle, immediately setting up the Illuminate, nuking down that wave, but it's not going to kill the Catapult, and it's certainly not going to remove the heroes. The rest of his team just not teleporting to join him in time, and now they blink up the hill. TK finds a few. The arena's on the back line. It's a long way off from their Coddle and the Phoenix, but they can join the fight immediately. Great egg position on the high ground. This looks bad for the Dire. They're going to have to try and make some sort of organized retreat. They can't finish off the Wyvern even because of the Cold Embrace, and now this is giving a lot of time for the spells of USYD to do their work, but the spells coming back off cooldown for UOA as well. They bring down Upper finally with that Dragon's Breath. Saisi looks to be in a lot of trouble. He's just buying space for his team. The CK's back as well. Now they're out. They're going to lose 3 in the end, including their Razor and their Underlord, but they do get the DK out of there, and of course they do take the tier 2. They do get a consolation kill. I don't think they got any others, though, so that's definitely Radiant favored. All the kills on Sir Ramen Noodles as well. Getting another triple there is 9 and 1 on this Coddle, which is definitely what you'd hope for this pick. Picks up another one. Fingerfap there can't finish off Balance before the Dagon finds him. It's a full Dagon 5 now. No wonder we saw a triple. So Ramen Noodles, the argument is clear here now for this Coddle. He's just trying to be a one-man damage cannon to drive this team out of the fights, to, if not kill the DK or the Underlord, then at least crush their supports. But I have to wonder, Razor closing in on this BKB. It's been a tough game for Danolku, as kind of expected. This is not usually the style or the kind of hero that his team asks of him. And, yeah, it's possible that he's running into some trouble as a result, right? Not necessarily that he doesn't know what to do, but just he's not getting the support or even as much space as he's fully used to. There's certainly the space being contained by the relentless map pressure this Coddle's pushing out. And I do have to admire the coordination with which USYD No Tinker are splitting their farm in this unusual draft. And Ramen Noodles, obviously this is a specialty hero, really looking assured on this Coddle, and now going for the Kaya as well. So absolutely fearless. That's the thing, right? Like, we aren't even seeing a casting range items. We see Loved actually picks up Saisi again completely solo. This Underlord is having another uncomfortable game, and I have to wonder how much the damage being done to the safe laner and off laner. Like, TK is having an alright game on the Dragon Knight. He's just obviously a little bit in the shadow of the Keeper of the Light, blinding as his Radiance is currently. But yeah, I figured that you'd at least after the Dagon 5 from Sir Ramen Noodles be seeing some sort of cast range item or a BKB or something, but they're just going all damage. I wonder if they're ever going to be able to pick him off the start of the fight. They've got the tools. WDK soul binds him, gets the silence as well. Now they're going Mortimer's Kisses. This is what they were hoping for. Ramen Noodles goes down, 0 contribution from the super stack Keeper of the Light, but Loved, he's no slouch, comes in on the CK. All of the firepower seemingly expended already, brings down a third hero. TK dying, both supports are dead as well, just the Underlord and the Razor, and we've already talked about they're a little bit behind where they should be in the game. You can see Danelku, he just doesn't have the damage, doesn't have the survivability, doesn't even have the magic immunity yet. They even tip Sizey. Loved feeling himself as he finally gets a chance to shine without this pesky, kill-stealing old man and his horse here. I mean, this is a pretty incredible cooperation. This is some Avengers level team up, between Keeper of the Light and Chaos Knight. You know, Chaos Knight, his eternal quest is hunting this old man, but they are united today in their mutual dislike of UOA 5Headelaide, and they let it show there. Chaos Knight unleashing, cracking some skulls, accelerating further. 8-2-2 now for Loved. Cruising. It's rare that you see a 9k gold lead and it's all on the carries, right? Because often when you see a team be ahead significantly at this stage in the game in particular, it's because one team supports are dying more, right? Like, your team wins the team fights, you're a support player, you're able to survive in those fights and get some gold. The other team support dying constantly around the map trying to get wards up or tanking smoke ganks or just being a casualty in fights. And that's where the inequality kind of deepens first, because your carries are mutually farming. But you can see here, Danelku's having a really hard time of it. Love just finds him, and we're at the point in the game where Chaos Knight with just Armlet Treads Echo Saber, yeah, consigns him to dust in about a second. That's brutal for this Razor, who just has no farming steroid, has no actual steroid in the fights, either behind the static link. Like, your whole idea is that you're able to survive for long enough to drain the damage out of the CK, and obviously you'd rather a slightly better kind of initiation than him just dropping on you from the high ground. But it's looking grim right now where the team fight, as far as the team fights go, and again, the relative immobility of this team costing them. We see TK go down, Fingerfap collapses on the backline, it's a full rout already. I mean, you could argue it was a risky time to go to the Radiant side of the map with your carry hero down, but they were looking for some kind of retaliation kill, and even with the global mobility and ganking power that this Underlord intended to provide, it looks like they've just completely lost the pace of this game. Suddenly a 12,000 gold lead. The last couple of minutes have been very, very good for USYD No Tinker, and Balance blinks, finds another one. Loved picks it up with the Reality Rift. They combo Sizey, juggling him around like it's a fighting game. He barely touches the ground. Now he's in the grave. I mean, 7 deaths on the Underlord. Only 4 on Danelku's Razor, but only 1 kill and 4 assists, so he's barely been involved. And certainly, for a hero with that little involvement, his farm has been slacking. We know how fast Danelku can go with the items, but he was just contained in this safe lane from the start of the game, basically. Had an okay lane against the Mars, but then, you know, the constant pressure, couldn't take any towers. The team in general just couldn't get rolling. This last pick, Keeper of the Light mid, really stymied their early momentum. And as I said in the draft, even before that pick, this draft was really predicated on getting an early game lead. And, you know, I thought that they'd be able to maybe brute force things under the tower, but against the team fight ultimates of Egg and Winter's Curse, it's quite difficult. Not to mention the arena, and Loved has just done a sterling job on this CK, not only taking over the safe lane pretty early on and driving out that Underlord, but even managing to, you know, overhaul the cause of the Dire with the CK, just farming diligently, still able to come to fights and clean up. Really assured game so far. I mean, I'm talking about it like it's a post-mortem because it's certainly looking that way, right? I haven't checked the win percentage graph, but you can see there WDK just kind of getting randomly sniped. They exchange a high five between Loved and TK. Chaos Knight thinks he can make this play, and yeah, we've really seen the win probability and the XP lead in particular ramp up, so Ramen Noodles can't resist. Comes in for another kill. This is his game, baby. 12-2 on the couple. Fingerfap unleashing on Loved. This time it's the Chaos Knight brought down by that Mortimer's Kisses. It's been one of the few things going right here for the side of 5Headelaide. They do also get upper. Cost them their Underlord though. And Danelku is going to go down as well. These immobile cores, even at this phase of the game, they're just deer in the headlights of an oncoming truck. Ramen Noodles No thoughts of touching the brakes. He plows through that man and his horse with those light horses. Puts him in the ground again. I mean, it's a 17,000 net worth call at 24 minutes into the game. And unlike the Tinker, which their name so viciously decries, or at least the Tinker of old, this has not come at the expense of the farm of his team. So Ramen Noodles has definitely used his lead, if not, like, left a lot of space. Although I admire, again, was careful to leave space for the CK. But he has definitely been so active with this gold. Everything you could really expect out of a snowballing mid laner. Especially in terms of, like, macro and economic pressure. He was running around constantly, super high APM, stealing stacks and camps from the enemy, forcing them to ward block their own neutral camps in the early game. As someone like a DK who likes to be taking that camp, honestly, you know, running it, getting into every fight, every tower defense. Now he's got that BKB ready on top of the Kaya. ¿Por qué no los dos? Says Sir Ramen Noodles in response to my question about itemization. And fair enough. At 25 minutes, this is a 6-slotted cuddle, more or less. I mean, obviously, you can upgrade these null tallies, but they have also just hit their stat upgrade, so getting a boost out of that as well, and he is feeling good. They're going to smoke up here, it looks like, as 4 at least. Even at this point in the game, Loved still just churning away on the creeps in the bottom lane. They don't need him. 15,000 net worth ahead. They're sure he can arrive at the fights if necessary. Cuddle, he doesn't have the shard yet for the recall, which is a little bit surprising. It seems like a very natural fit for the way that they're playing with their carry, but I guess you could argue that the shard doesn't do any damage, so no reason to pick it up for Ramen Noodles. He is the killer of the light today. And kill stealer, at least. Charging up that eliminate from a mile back as balance goes in. Also has his BKB ready, so there's nowhere to look in terms of targeting for the Dire UOA. They're just forced to try and beat a retreat. TK tries to walk away. The Solarbind weighs on him, tries to teleport, gets Winter's Cursed. There's just no way out in more ways than one. Danelku also locked down inside the BKB. Did he press that somehow after getting stunned? I'm not sure there. The Chaos Bolt got him. And, yeah, things are looking difficult right now for the Dire as they lose 4 heroes. The Razor does manage to TP out with the BKB, but there's even a double damage rune on the CK, so this is going to be, I'd assume, 2 lanes of Rax, if not the GG call. The Phantasm does expire. They have pretty high damage between Ramen Noodles and, of course, the CK doing most of the work here, but that's what he's here for, laying into the tower. Extra attack speed from that Shadow Blade and the Armlet adding up quickly. Mid lane down, and with the 21,000 net worth lead already, and a team that, I mean, this is sort of a missed opportunity, right? Because you might normally think you could outscale this Coddle CK duo in the late game. You could outfarm them. Obviously, Coddle farms very hard, but will cap out at some point in the, you know, surprisingly near future. And CK doesn't necessarily outfarm a lot of heroes, but Razor, unfortunately, especially with how his game's gone, not really putting the Chaos Knight to shame in the farm department. So I don't even really see much of a hope for them to catch up. And now they're looking to make the AEST. The nail in the coffin are USYD No Tinker closing in here on a 1-0 lead in this crucial elimination BO3. Balance and Loved just taking it down by themselves. As we see, actually, it looks like the movement's scattered. There is a Dire Ward, so obviously both teams pretty much aware. They move out of the pit in advance of the Mortimer's Kisses, so that first salvo lands shy of the heroes it wanted. WDK already dead. He buys back immediately. They do bring down Asian Turtle Frenzy, so no egg this time. And the pit is in a great spot, isolating the CK from the fight. But TK, speaking of isolated, he gets pulled into the pit. No help for him there. And Balance now comes in with an ultimate of his own. He puts a ring around that Underlord, and they put Sizey in the ground again. It's been a rough game for him. The rest of his team is quick to follow. The support's mopped up in a real hurry here. There's just too many items, too much firepower. Ramen Noodles absolutely putting on a clinic. Gonna have to first phase ban the Coddle. Probably not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's banned at some point in the next draft. It's just I mean, cheese picks are always devastating tools to have on your side, and I haven't really ever seen this Coddle pick be as effective as it is right here. I thought it was going to be the mid-Wyvern, but Ramen Noodles, the light has certainly been kept today. Look at him solo killing Danelku here. This is a BKB holding Razor. I mean, the BKB is on cooldown right now, but so Ramen Noodles just like, no BKB detected? How dare you be on the map? Boots of travel to the lane, just solar bind spam, keeps the Razor locked down, no outs, damage present, GG called emphatically by the side of UOA. they formalize what we already knew. A 17 kill performance from the mid Coddle, stopping just shy of level 25. The highest on the enemy team, level 18. 26,000 net worth lead, a lot of which was pretty much just him. That is some crazy stuff here from Sir Ramen Noodles. Awesome, awesome to see. Very entertaining. You can see it looked okay. You can tell that, you know, it wasn't immediate in its impact, but once that Coddle got started, it went off like a shot. So yeah, we'll just quickly have a look here as we look the player level. That's interesting as well. Look at this gap, even over the enemy mid laner. You can see huge stuff from Ramen Noodles. It will be interesting to see how UOA respond to that in the draft, because I do often compliment WDK on his drafting. This team as a whole seemed very together with their tactics, and it looked like they had a plan coming into this, but no plan survives contact with the mid Coddle. And now, as they play for their survival in Game 2, UOA are going to need to bounce back in some kind of way, else they face elimination from Uni League Season 1. We'll be right back with that in about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. And we are back here in the lower bracket playoffs, round one of the playoffs here for the AEL Uni League of Dota 2, Season 1 for 2021. It's been going on a little while. Obviously, we've had some time to get to know and love this league, these teams, but of these two teams, 5Headelaide and USYD No Tinker, only one will remain in the playoffs after this bracket, and potentially only one will remain in this playoffs after this next game. 5Headelaide, Adelaide University, 5Headelaide, they took a nasty L in game one, got kind of blown out of the draft by I admit I didn't catch it either. Last pick mid-coddle for the incredible Sir Ramen Noodles, who played it to perfection, really exploited the early game focused draft that they had, deadened the potential tower push of TK's Dragon Knight, really left them no options, and then loved coming through with a big Chaos Knight performance as well. Really, really clutch stuff out of USYD. So they definitely have taken the upper hand in my mind here, and obviously also on paper, as they only need one more win to advance in the lower bracket, eliminating 5Headelaide. But there's still time to bounce back. WDK and the boys have had a short break. They've had some time to rally. And so as we just get ready to set up the draft, we anticipate seeing something quite different from them. I don't know whether they're going to ban the coddle or whether they just feel as though now that it's been shown, they feel that they can navigate around it. But it was certainly an incredible performance. Not often you see a Dagon rush work out that well. But yeah, I mean, it goes to show that the teams are pulling out all the stops here now that we're in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm impressed honestly by both teams. I don't feel as though there was a huge skill gap, but the pace of play that USYD No Tinker brought out there really, I think, took them off guard. It's just a real draft win, and it shows how important that it is to get the advantage through the drafting phase as we re-enter it now. 5Headelaide, they're going to choose to have the final pick of the draft, so picking second, interesting choice. They ban out the Invoker again. That's obviously Sir Ramen Noodles' first love. We'll see if the Coddle joins it in the bans. But USYD, I mean, in a game ahead, right now they're banning similarly to how they did in game one. But with a game ahead, perhaps they feel, I'd say they'd feel the option to go for something a bit more out of left field, but they kind of did that already. So maybe they can go for a more proactive draft. Maybe you can do something like you first phase the Coddle now if it's not immediately banned. I wouldn't mind that because it's been very popular regardless, right? Even as a support. So if you first phase the Coddle, you force 5Headelaide to respect that terrifying Ramen Noodles Coddle pick, and you can still potentially flex it. Of course, 5Headelaide, they're not interested in dealing with that kind of complication, so they ban out both of Ramen's heroes. That's always a bit of feather in your cap. You know, it's bittersweet as a player when your favorite heroes attract all the bans, but you can also kind of wear that with pride, that you're essentially just too much for the enemy to handle, and they do just go right back to the first pick, Mars. That's nice and safe. That's nice and solid. USYD, one gets the sense, not messing around. If that Coddle pick, you know, you could argue that was a bit of a cheese strat, but it absolutely aced 5Headelaide in game one, so hard to really talk about it as though it is not in their best interest. It just turned out to be a bit of a brilliancy, a master stroke. We'll see what they have up their sleeve this time, but so far, the draft just opens the same with one of the most stable picks in Dota 2. Now, if you're trying to undermine the Mars, which isn't necessarily the way to look at the draft, it is just their first pick, but the way that I most often see this Mars pick flop is obviously you want to present a strongish safe lane into it, one that it can't just feed off of or bully out, but beyond that, you want a team that takes control of the vision game and has the superior initiation through the mid game. And what are the first two picks out of 5Headelaide? Earth Spirit and Night Stalker. Every second past the start of a team fight that Mars doesn't cast Arena often reduces his impact. You need that Arena to be the first spell cast in a lot of cases. So, you know, that's why you see Blink BKB on Mars basically every game. You want to just be able to get in and cast those spells unhindered. But with Earth Spirit and Night Stalker together, you have not only some powerful silences, but great potential to steal a march on the USYD lineup, make the initiations yours instead, either get onto the Mars and disable him, or get onto other targets before the Mars is ready. And, you know, both in terms of the overall pace of play with the Night Stalker, obviously having those really hard to contest periods of strength, but also just your general mobility and vision control, getting to have a bit more say in how the game unfolds, because it feels like in game one they barely got to play, right? They got in the game, and then this cuddle just ran in and stole their wallets, and the game kind of ended quickly, because they were just so shell-shocked trying to respond to the pace with which every lane was getting shoved in on them. Really impossible to muster the kind of 5-man that they wanted. And the fact that their Underlord and their Razor died so much pretty consistently throughout the game certainly didn't help. I imagine that we'll be seeing now with their tournament lives on the line, what I'll say, a more traditional Danelku hero. Being something like, I'm not saying particularly a Troll or a Phantom Lancer. The Juggernaut's obviously been banned both games. Actually, USYD now banning out the CK as well, which I still think was probably 5Headelaide's first choice to carry there in game one. The Razor certainly looked a bit lost in that draft. So, you know, good drafting from USYD on the whole. They're now banning it instead of deny picking it. But yeah, I'd just like to see Danelku on a hero that farms a bit more reliably. Obviously, Razor can really accelerate, but the fact that he wasn't able to be given the kind of start that he needs to snowball the farm kind of shows that the team plays best when he can just be left alone, like, you know, growing a mushroom or something. Just leave him in the dark side of the map and forget about him for 25 minutes. A couple of day-night cycles. Of course, it could always be a carry Night Stalker. Could completely flip this on its head. I very much doubt it, though. Almost certainly going to be the offlaner. In response to that Mars, the Underlord just didn't fare very well, but that does open up a potential vulnerability in the off lane, right? We often see this Earth Spirit as the 4 position. But Knight's, you know, Earth Spirit obviously is a 4. One of his strengths is how he likes to roam off of your off laner. And Night Stalker is not the strongest laner against certain enemy safe lanes, especially like obviously the Mars Grimstroke's been a pretty powerful combo. But if you put the Grimstroke against the Night Stalker in the safe lane, plus a CK, well, not plus a CK, but plus a lot of characters, the Night Stalker could have a really hard time staying in lane, and that was kind of one of the things that unraveled 5Headelaide in their first game. Now the Silencer. So one of these has to be a core. I'm imagining it's Silencer, potentially even Silencer mid. Obviously, int carries have gotten a lot of quality of life buffs with the new items that have been added over the last couple of patches, particularly that Witchblade upgrade, just Witchblade itself. Silencer, huge beneficiary of that stuff. Granted, can have a little bit of trouble against something like a Mars, because you are just one of those range cores that can simply never survive past a certain level of initiation, right? Like, heroes like Drow, Sniper, Silencer, Luna. There's a bunch of heroes that are just like squishy ranged agi heroes, or in this case an in hero with no kind of built-in escape or survivability tool. And yeah, you can buy a BKB or whatever, but there's really only so much you can do at some point. It has to come down and just positioning in a fight. And so to pick that this early in the draft, I have to imagine that they're going for this full momentum play. It could just obviously be a support size. It could be 5th position Earth Spirit, 4th position Silencer. Wouldn't mind that. But yeah, picking up PA and Venge on top of the Mars says that your carry is going to really need to be able to deal with some attention, because it's just not feasible in my mind that one of your primary damage dealers is going to be able to contribute properly in these fights without getting into the, you know, target crosshairs of any of these heroes. And going back to the bans for a moment, we are waiting on 5Headelaide to make their last pick. They've already burned through a lot more extra time than they had at this point in the first draft. Like, they were obviously methodical in draft 1, but they kind of felt like they knew what they wanted. This feels like a much more learning our lessons, reacting, thinking through game 1 kind of draft. They've banned out the Phoenix, the Storm, and the Bloodseeker, so removing those high-tempo cores, but also a bit of team fight. Now that enemy cores have been picked up, they go with the Wraith King. So, yeah, as I said, the enemy draft says that your carry has to be able to survive getting a lot of attention. That's the classic response. The Wraith King for Danelku, that is certainly a Danelku kind of hero. You give him a half of the map and you leave him and his skeletons be. Danelku is going to be able to farm, I think, a bit more reliably there. So looking good for 5Headelaide. A little bit short on team fight right now. They've got the Earth Spirit and the Silencer, obviously. They're kind of just relying on that to be like enough to at least disconnect the enemy team fight, to discourage it or disrupt it, as opposed to, you know, trying to initiate 5-man brawls themselves. And, you know, to be fair, they do have the vision and initiation heroes to be able to make those small ganks happen. And Silencer and Night Stalker are great choices for that kind of ganking lineup that wants to make a whole game plan out of, you know, small engagements, just individual pickoffs, because of how good you are at sort of denying counter initiation, right? You can teleport in a Mars and a VS to try and swap someone out or through an arena and catch heroes who are trying to dive for a kill on your carry or whatever. But if you pop Global Silence, you're going to be able to finish that kill and get out again before the worst can happen. And USYD now, they have to reckon with what 5Headelaide could be looking for. They are assuming that these are the supports. And with Wraith King having been selected, it does look a lot more viable that this could be a 5th position Earth Spirit, 4th position Silencer. That seems to fit the lanes well. The Earth Spirit should be able to leave the Wraith King alone after a certain amount of time, for better or worse. And the Night Stalker will have a very powerful laning duo with the Silencer, as that hero likes to do. So they're trying to remove high-tempo mid laners. They ban the Sand King and, of course, the Huskar. Not a hero seen recently, but you could do worse for 5Headelaide. 5Headelaide, in again, banning out the Puck, and this time they are going... Actually, they had the... I believe they had the ultimate last pick last game as well. They responded to the Coddle, I think, with the DK. I can't recall exactly. They do have the last pick this time. They ban out the Razor, so they remove a classic Wraith King counter. This almost has to be the mid laner. Probably seeing a Phantom Assassin, Grimstroke off lane, safe lane, Mars, Venge off lane. So who is your mid? Unless this is some sort of like crazy Grim mid or Vengeful mid. So Ramen Noodles, a lot of mid laners banned out. Who can he go to? Void Spirit's still in the pool, but maybe not a great pick into all of this. You could go for something bullocking like a DK, try and pressure down the towers. Your team probably wouldn't mind another tower hitter. Obviously, Venge can help your team's overall damage, but PA and Mars aren't the best at it. You wouldn't mind something beefy as well, something that's not fully broken up by the Global Silence or just being silenced in general. So some sort of auto attack heavy mid laner, perhaps the Kunkka for a bit more catch. Yeah, Kunkka, DK. I'm trying to think of other strength mids. Could even be a Magnus. I mean, the enemy team don't seem like they're going to necessarily have the fastest game. Mag obviously doesn't love being silenced, but you can just accelerate farm. Obviously a great combo with the PA regardless. You're not going to have to be the initiator, which is always a plus for a Magnus, because you've got that Mars. You can save your RP a little bit instead of having to open the fights with it. Good way to isolate the Wraith King as well. It depends, really, because like a lot of situations with the Wraith King and the Night Stalker, they tend to charge forward. You might be trying to dive the back line, which is at least the Silencer and possibly also the mid laner. But I'm just a bit worried about trying to do that on this kind of team. They go for the Pangolier, of course. I was blanking on that one. Not a strength mid laner, but a strength hero at heart, I feel like. Another sort of survivable melee utility pick. It's been quite strong in the mid lane in the major. Obviously, a very high player skill hero, but we just saw Ramen Noodles flexing hard on the Coddle. You have to imagine equal confidence felt in this Pango pick, if, of course, it is the mid Pango. I got wrong-footed in the last draft by that Coddle mid switcheroo. Could easily be something like a Core Grimstroke or a Core Venge. Core Venge being a hero that's been, you know, extant in the past year, as opposed to basically all of the rest of Dota, barring a few periods. And Grimstroke, I mean, look, Core Grimstroke is not really a pro pick at any point, at any level, but I think it's pretty neat. I think that this hero does a ton of damage and has some pretty strong itemization routes. So if you're the kind of team who's comfortable picking up a mid Coddle, why not do the same on Grims? Yeah, no, I couldn't keep the charade up. So Ramen Noodle selecting the Pangolier here in an attempt to drive a Rapier through the heart of 5Headelaide's final hopes in the AEL Uni League Season 1. Looking super good right now. 5Headelaide, though, go with the last pick, Mirana. So is this a core Mirana? Is this mid Mirana, perhaps? They're really tossing up here. TK picks the Mirana. They were holding off. WDK had not selected a hero there. I almost thought we were going to get the mid Silencer for a second. I honestly wouldn't have minded it. Like, okay, I just went through a whole song and dance about how hard it can be to play a static, squishy, ranged core into a burst heavy repositioning heavy lineup like this. But you did just pick the Wraith King. Like, you can have a secondary core like Silencer, and he definitely puts the hurt onto some of these heroes. That being said, we're going to see TK on the Mirana. So core Mirana running into all these heroes, what can it do? I think the one thing that obviously provides is that ultimate. It really synergizes. 5Headelaide, they are so desperate to be able to make some plays and take some fights on their own terms after how that game 1 went. Let's see if it pays off for them. Let's hope that they're waking up here in game 2, just like Silence's shield there. WDK standing front and center, leading his team into battle for what I hope isn't, but fully could be the final time here in Season 1 of the AEL Uni League 2022. So we get into the game. It's going to be balanced, running it back on the Mars. Had a really great game 1 there. Slightly overshadowed by the explosive game out of the 1 and 2 position. But everyone on this side of USYD No Tinker looks super on the ball here. Loved, had an absolute, barn burner himself. Really brought the house down with those Chaos Knight plays, and just a great balance between ganking and farming, or I say ganking, I should really say cleaning up team fights and farming, which is certainly going to stand him in good stead here on the PA as well, rocking that full Arcana, so you know he means business, and Asian Turtle Frenzy here on the Vengeful Spirit, going to be even potentially have a bit more to do in the laning phase, right? The early game was kind of a bit supine, a bit passive here from these guys in game 1. Game 2, not the case. Definitely having the tools upper as well, bringing that Grimstroke to the party. They could potentially take this game out of UOA's hands much faster. WDK narrowly avoids running into basically the entire USYD lineup, as it looks like both teams, they're going to do the old chips in the night and go to opposite sides of the map. Sizey walking out of the base with 3 gauntlets of strength. You know he means business. Likely going to be a Soul Ring and a Bracer. TK, it'll be interesting to see how he itemizes, and similarly how this Earth Spirit moves. It's really going to be the Mirana and the Earth Spirit that I'm interested in following. Obviously how the lanes go is hugely important. It's actually a huge level 1 fight breaks out. Both teams collapsing to the top lane. An Asian Turtle Frenzy, he's the one who gets caught out. Fingerfab lands a great roll in the rolling boulder, or rolling... I actually don't know the technical term for whatever bit of religious paraphernalia that Earth Spirit Immortal makes it, but rolling cylinder slams into the Venge. The rest of the team collapses, brings him down. TK, I'm not sure if that was meant to hit the range creep, just immediately arrowing a creep. I mean, either way, you can see the game plan, I guess. We're going to shove Sabrama Noodles' lane into the tower. This level 1 Pangolier really doesn't do a lot in the lane. Just has the shield crash. It's a longish cooldown, not the best damage. I don't think you're going to be killing him on the Mirana, at least early on, although I won't ever count out a player of TK's quality. But maybe we can try and ruin Sabrama Noodles' economy as a bit of payback for what happened in game 1. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we can already see WDK skilling Arcane Curse level 1, not the Glaives of Wisdom. Understands that trying to stand and deliver into a stun combo of Venge and Mars is not the play at level 1. That's a great way to feed yourself to the USYD off lane. So instead, harassing with that Curse, trying to wear down the mana. And in the enemy offlane, I guess I called out the Mirana and the Earth Spirit as being important, but Sizey's laning phase matters as well. Obviously, if you can get some kills here with that Earth Spirit, it'd be pretty huge. They do go onto upper, at least try and soften him up, but yeah, this level 1 Nightstalker, I mean, he's just not a killing hero. He doesn't even have the Soul Ring yet, prioritizing the Bracer, just trying to hang out in the lane, and it does strike me as a lane that Fingerfap is going to try and rotate off of, which, you know, as I raised from very early in the draft, it'll be, I'm curious to see what the Nightstalker does, whether or not he's able to survive alone in the lane, whether or not he tries to, you know, hang out in the jungle for a bit or rotate himself early on, earlier than you'd normally expect. There's still a lot of brawling at top. It's not favoring the side of UOA. They're not going to get the first kill. Now, granted, first blood already spilled before the horn, so not as bad to lose Fingerfap slightly before upper goes down there. You do give love to kill, though, and I would not be interested in giving this man any additional gold after what we did to you in game 1. You might blame the Sir Ramen Noodles cuddle, all you like, but you have to respect the 1 position play out of USYD as well. No Tinker have been fearsome all season, and even though WDK and the boys have shown their ability to take the scrap up to anybody, they are playing at a real disadvantage here. Definitely underdog status after that game 1. Got something to prove. Hopefully that lights a bit of a fire under them, and they're able to level up the series. We would go to a game 3 in that case, obviously, an elimination final. Not going to be splitting a series 1-1. And who doesn't want to see more quality playoff Dota? Bit of an engagement up top. Fingerfap might be in trouble. Love moving in. The Inkswell's got him. He doesn't have another boulder roll, but it looks like they might run out of damage here. No, he's going to go down, upper, finishing him with that last right click. So Fingerfap not having a great time. He's probably one of the best performers for his team in game 1 on that Snapfire, but having a bit of trouble early game. Not so good. Obviously, this isn't the most level-hungry hero. Likes to run around out of XP range a lot normally anyway, but it's still disheartening to see him dying, especially when Danilku in the safe lane is having an equally hard time. I flagged that the relating phase might be a bit harder this time for UOA, and that's definitely come to pass. WDK doing what he can on the silencer to fire back a bit of damage, but he's also not looking so healthy. Almost begging Balance to burn some spells on him instead of the Wraith King. Wraith King, 2 levels in the Lifesteal Aura early on, just trying to stay alive. Obviously, you know, not too bad to have, but because that is, once again, the skeleton spawning skill, not the crit. But, yeah, definitely struggling to keep himself afloat here in his own safe lane and falling behind Balance on last hits. This has been a really big showing for No Tinker with this offlane Mars in both games so far. And TK kind of going even with Pangolier in the mid. Oh, wow, Sizey. Okay. I was wrong. No Soul Ring. 3 braces complete at 4 minutes 29 for this Night Stalker. So if I was wondering whether or not he was going to be able to survive in the lane alone, I have my answer. They are definitely itemizing for it. And with all of these stats, you have to imagine he's going to be able to play the bully a little bit more to loved, even with that Blightstone available, even if his support isn't always present in the lane. Some kind of play being made, though. They're going to try. I mean, that's a lot of extra survivability and health regen on this Night Stalker. I guess 3 braces is kind of like the modern evolution of rushing an urn or something. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, who isn't a survivable WDK, getting walked down by Asian Turtle Frenzy here, and the neutral creep's not helping, but he's able to stay alive, thanks to those stick charges. Man, it would have been humiliating if the easy troll camp got you. But Fingerfap, finally, it's been a bit of a quiet landing phase for him. Died a couple of deaths, looking to get his revenge on Loved. It's a nice boulder roll into boulder smash kickback, but it's not enough. Sizey, the slow from the void, even, they timed that as well as they perfectly could. Even without a target for Love to blink back onto, they weren't able to get the finish. So Ramen Noodles, though, actually gets solo killed in the mid. TK picks him up, and with the distance between those heroes, I think he might have been arrowed in his way out of the fight there. They give him a couple of tips. They needed a win. TK getting that dub for his team. Again, this Mirana, really a linchpin hero for the UOA draft. They need him to both be a playmaking hero and scale into like a big primary damage source. And I haven't seen that many core Miranas recently, so I'm not exactly certain what build he's going to favor. I'd imagine probably the physical build, just so they have an extra tower hitter, although they could leave that up to Danilku. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. At least if your core Potom is doing well enough that you can avoid getting bursted, you can leap out of things like the Mars Arena and, of course, the Rolling Thunder chain stun. It's no longer a perfect chain stun, so you'll, I believe, always be able to get that leap off unless there's some well-spursed interstitial disables, but it's still a bit of a concern for me how squishy this hero is. You know, you have an escape, but the hero's health point pool is just never going to be that flash. Hot fires out the arrow out of invisibility, but it's off the mark Balance. I mean, that's a hard one to read. He was going for the creep wave, and TK fires wide, decides to commit under the tower anyway, leaping past the creep wave and the tier 1, trying to get Asian Turtle Frenzy. Balance just goes into the trees. They don't even look for him. So, I mean, the interest obviously is to just push them off the tier 1 and try and take that perhaps, but a bit unfortunate if your Potom can't get the job done. The Moonlight Shadow is still going. It's 18-second long invisibility, and they don't anticipate or can't avoid one or the other. The second wave of an ambush from TK rolls back into the lane and gets both kills. So never mind, mops it up and continues to be a shining light on the hill for this UOA side as they play for their lives here. Sizey has level 6 up as well. It is nighttime now. Bit of aggression here in the top lane by Sir Ramen Noodles. Okay, a little bit of an aggression on the support, but it seems like primarily the goal is just to get Loved out of there. You do not want to be laning this fragile level 6 no items PA into a nighttime Night Stalker with all these braces as she's trying to build a Battle Fury. Delivering that first component now. So we'll see what sort of timing can be achieved. Potentially really looking to close off the late game. As Danoku, one would assume, yeah, the armlet's pretty much the only build on Wraith King at this point, but it does kind of cement him as the earlier game carry of this pair. He does have a pretty decent matchup into PA, in that, you know, if you're just clashing 1-to-1, the Wraith King can build an MKB in the late game. He doesn't have to worry as much about trying to survive the onslaught. PA definitely can struggle. You know, your BKB duration's unlikely to last long enough to get both lives off him. But I imagine the goal is more to have, you know, the Wraith King controlled and the PA blowing up backlines, and then you isolate the Wraith King. He's easy to kite. It goes both ways. So if PA is able to build this farming item unpunished while the Wraith King goes for an early game item and the team doesn't get, you know, a lot of hay made while the sun shines, or, well, it doesn't, since they're a Night Stalker draft, could be problems. Speaking of problems, Upper finding some problems of his own in the mid. And now, Sarama Noodles, after all-starring in Game 1, definitely deserving a little bit of extra personal attention here from the UA side. They oblige him, putting him in the ground. And Asian Turtle Frenzy tries to turn on this Marana and does bring him down as the Magic Missile comes back up and the Creep Wave getting a bit of an assist. So TK does go down there, but 5-1 feeds the kill streak over to the support Venge. Probably a good thing on the whole. Obviously, you know, items on any hero are important, but better than feeding it to the PA, for instance. And will secure the tier 1 mid for this team. So that's now 2 out of 3 tier 1 towers. And Sizey, they're going to not even use their free glyph. Oh no, glyph value lost for USYD No Tinker. But perhaps more importantly, all tier 1 towers down before the 10-minute mark. You don't see that happen every game. And now, oh, they're moving immediately into the jungle to take control. Upper kind of knew it was happening, tried to get on the spot with the D wards, but runs into the Radiant team, kind of getting a little bit a step ahead, right? It's the idea that, well, obviously their next step is to take control of your jungle, try and deny Loved the chance to farm. They can see now that he's brought out that Void Stone, that he is going for the greedy Battle Fury build. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that there are that many other builds to go, that it's a bad idea, but they know what they have to play against, so they're looking to take away that farming space. Danoku, they find balance. I didn't even realize he was so far behind the tier 1 there. Didn't even use the arena, perhaps just got caught out by some silence. I don't know if there's a Blink Dagger up on anyone yet. I think he might have just gotten Earth Spirit silenced out of the trees and then brought down. Marana also probably playing a part there. Actually, no, some cooldown for too long. So, look, Mars going down in the bottom lane. He was the top farmer for USYD, so bit of a worrying sign from here in Game 2. It just seems like in Game 1, one of the teams has snatched the initiative early, and the other team doesn't really have an obvious reply, in part because even aside from your, you know, PA, who's trying to farm, your Mars and your Pango, your other two cores, aren't doing gangbusters themselves, right? Like, your hope would be that one of these heroes was doing really well, and you'd be able to, you know, play around them and use them to hold space on the map, but that's just not the case. Balance still a fair way off this Blink Dagger and trying to find room in his own jungle. A fraught occupation right now. Sees that ward go down from WDK, but of course WDK sees him dewarding. Will they jump? They don't try to. With the loss of vision and without the bottom ult available, they're not that interested. TK doing it for KDS here, but also obviously for his boys on UOA. Probably makes the call to back out. There's some great Dire vision and great Radiant vision. They're contesting the exact same spots. Everyone knows where this battle is being fought right now. Everyone except Danoku, of course. Every other player constantly roaming around the sort of top quadrant of the map for the Dire. This Wraith King, though, everywhere that they are, just farming and pushing the opposite lanes, has taken the bottom tier 2 now. So, you know, really helping to accelerate his own farm, not by going for a tower so much, but definitely by mopping up the map in terms of building objectives, claiming all those extra sums of gold, one-off that they may be. And Loved still only halfway to this B Fury. Mars still 2/3 of the way to the Blink. It's only 12 minutes, so it's not like they're doing especially slowly, although this Battle Fury timing is probably going to be a couple of minutes behind where you want it to be at least. Love just not having the best time on this PA in terms of farm. The Night Stalker lane plus the constant pressure, at least the fighting, is one of those things where, you know, the Earth Spirit is 0, 2, and 5. They didn't really win the lane hard in terms of kills, but they were able to prevent the PA from having free farm. Certainly just having to stand on the creep line against a Night Stalker, not being able to push him off, will impact your ability to last hit. And we can see Night Stalker now building the Echo Saber as well, so he just wants to be able to do a truck of physical damage, and especially Syzy knows that he's going to be the first one into these fights. It's not a hero like an Anti-Mage or a Spirit hero who you need to be able to blink onto with Crippling Fear. It's more so that you can survive getting arena'd. He wants to draw spells and not die and still be able to keep fighting afterwards, even if he swapped back or arena'd in, and that's what they're going to try and do now. Danilku, he's first in, as the Wraith King has that privilege, gets to dive with no fear because Reincarnation is up. There's no PA in this fight. She's too low a hit point to join, so potentially a big opportunity to at least pick up a bunch of more kills. And the Global Silence comes out just as Pangolier is trying to roll the Grimstroke by and had them leashed up. It was a perfect corridor. Now Sarama Noodles is going to try another shot at it. They're all still in place thanks to the Mars Arena and Grimstroke Ultimate holding them all together at that choke point. And so 2 heroes go down, including TK on the bottom, but that seems to be about the sum of their firepower. Again, PA not able to contribute to this fight. This would be a perfect mop-up opportunity, but Loved is still just in a larval form right now, trying to finish that first item, that Battle Fury. So all that can be done is a dagger lobbed from the side, just kind of to provide moral support as much as anything. And so, yeah, actually only the one kill went down. I guess the other one was the Wraith King ultimate, so it's just the bottom. Of course, that is the mid laner, so a big kill to get, but that does make that fight feel a bit more bitter in the mouths of USYD No Tinker after they dominated game 1. To lose 3 heroes there, 3, 4, and 5 position for just the 2, still not a good trade. Especially PA, I mean, she got a bit of farm during that time, but she also kind of like wandered up near the fight, just in case, I guess. And I did credit Loved in game 1 for knowing when to come to fights and when to not on this PA. But I think if you're committing to this Battle Fury and it's already 15 minutes and you still don't have it, and you're still like 1,000 gold off it nearly, the time to come to fights is probably never. So Fingerfap gonna have this Spirit Vessel ready soon. A lot of items coming out on the side of the Radiant. Every second that this Battle Fury is delayed is a big deal, because the other cause, as I mentioned, not doing the best. Looks like Sir Ramen Noodles is now finally flying out. His first real item doesn't even have upgraded boots, but he's going to have a Diffusal Blade, which will be important for kiting, and potentially even Mana Burning the Wraith King. Hopefully going to force the Ag Shard purchase or pickup out of Danilku. We'll see whether or not that actually comes to pass. And Syzy taking this tower. They have 2 armlet. They don't have 2 armlet heroes in the same game, but you know, Syzy rocking the budget armlet of 3 braces. It's interesting to see 3 braces into Echo Saber phase, because now, of course, you can see he's already out of slots. He's gonna have to start selling at least one of those braces, but a Q-up of BKB into Shard seems like he'll have, you know, at least 1 or 2 braces to carry through to that 25-minute power-up, get full use out of those items. And TK, I was curious as to how his build would look. Definitely going for an auto-attack build, if not full physical, building up that Maelstrom in an attempt to maintain his own farm speed, and then going into the BKB. So BKBs all around, as you'd expect, from UOA as they look to battle through the heavy teamfight spells of USYD. And battling through heavy teamfight spells will be TK. This is what I was afraid of on the bottom. I mean, I guess they picked this over other options in part because it has an escape. Obviously, the Moonlight Shadow is the big one. Maybe you think, oh, well, I'll leap out of the magic spells, I'll leap out of the pressure, I won't be trapped, but that's what I was afraid of. There's just no way to survive that onslaught. It was a heavy smoke gank on the bottom lane, though, and you can see the disciplined reaction out of the UOA squad. They call it immediately, we're just going to pressure this mid tower, but they do have to mop up the creep wave, and even with the help of the skeletons, it looks like the defending forces will be here, smoked as well, in time to make this play. They didn't have to use any ultimates to kill the bottom lane. So Syzy, I mean, this is his job to tank it. He runs in and reveals the smoke. Mars dives the backline as he does. So this is very awkward for the side of USYD No Tinker. There was no follow-up for the Mars Arena. Even silenced and disabled. Syzy just kind of providing a bit too much of a human obstacle. There's no other Blink Dagger follow-up, and they did not want to abandon their backline to the Night Stalker, but that just ends up having the same result. They burn the Mars Arena. He's unable to get any solo kills, obviously. And then Syzy, with this unreal tanky build that he has, huge armor, lots of regen, lots of health, easily weathers the storm of stuns, pops his spells, and they gun apart the backline. They also kill the mid Pangolier, who's having just a miserable game right now, behind even the PA, who has only just finished Battle Fury at, you know, pushing 18 minutes, 17.5-minute Battle Fury. That is no good at all. Mars trying to make another play here. I mean, Balance had a great game one, but that's definitely worth a tip. Spear back into nothing. Immediately dies. The full team tip for that man in that play. I mean, he buys back on the spot, so maybe he was hoping there'd be some follow-up, or he's trying to burn some spells, trying to do something, but ends up feeding. And so the only hero who was doing all right in terms of net worth, you can see, now sinks below the Phantom Assassin as well. Top 3 net worths in the game, all Radiant heroes. That's where the gold lead lies. I mean, all the heroes are just ahead by a solid half an item right now. And this is just a complete reversal of game one. No clutch last pick coddle. And you can see that the game plan is working much better. It's much more proactive. They've been able to actually sort of hit an earlier timing and immediately start playing their game. And WDK, okay. Oh, Balance, he's really having a bit of trouble. Man, they will not let him off the hook. Another tip of that missed spear. Now, they probably will still mop up this silencer, but this is a support silencer. They have now used Rolling Thunder and Swap on. WDK eventually dies. I'm sure he is laughing it up in the control room somewhere. The captain, he doesn't mind taking those deaths. Danilku, I mentioned how much more this is his style of game. You can see he spent basically the entire match farming on the opposite side of the map to 9 other heroes. Completely balling. 10k net worth on the Wraith King, easily ahead of his counterpart. Has that Desolator complete on top of Armlet and Phase. And now even he's building a BKB. Very interesting. I mean, look, it's you just can't afford to get locked down by the Pangolier, but it shows how much they don't mind Loved's PA right now, that we're not seeing any prioritization of an MKB. There's just not really a concern that they're going to have trouble bringing down this PA, or that doing so quickly will be important. And PA, obviously, she's running towards her own Deso, so she still won't have a BKB even after this. Definitely perhaps thinking about playing a bit more of a split push role is Loved. I can't say that's the wrong decision. No boots of travel or anything up to catch, and you're probably going to have more luck cleaving through the creeps and then desoing through a tower than you are trying to take a fight into this team right now. But yeah, run into the tree is Loved. Even with the blur active and the blur passive, of course, trying to conceal his movements, has to be very afraid. Balance gonna get that TP off just in time, so great game sense from the USYD No Tinker team. Obviously, 5 heroes missing from the map. They have pretty good obs up still, despite how much map control they've lost. So they're able to suss out that gank. The smoke comes to nothing. Danilku is going to gank this creep wave instead and push his way up another lane. And yeah, I mean, I'm just interested in seeing the gold graph. You can see here that during the time that we are not fighting, the gold graph is dipping subtly in the favor of the Dire, and they might get a bit more gold here. We're finally going to see Loved pick up a first kill of the game, I believe. First kill of a long time since the laning phase. Does die right after, but that's an unstoppable kill streak ended on the Night Stalker. Potentially more for the team as well. It's a great arena from Balance as the UOA team arrive, kind of in a shambles a little bit. Kind of half-baked, this team fight, and they're being punished for it immediately. You're going to lose their Earth Spirit and probably their whole team here. Danilku doing as much work as he can, but surely between these 4 heroes, they're going to be able to bring him down a second time. That's so costly. Most of their lead obliterated in an instant. They end all the killing sprees. They scoop up all the bounties, and of course, the biggest bounty went to this Phantom Assassin. So for want of one little bit of coordination, maybe the discipline's slipping a little. Their failed smoke gank to bottom lane. They were hungry to make some sort of play happen. And this Night Stalker doesn't have BKB up yet. Saizi's been pretty hard to kill the whole game so far. But when you're that far away from your team and you get speared in the tree, the big difference maker was the PA being present and ready, and there not being any pressure on her. So the lack of BKB not exploited. All that matters is the damage. Free target to crit apart. And with a couple of lucky rolls on coup de grace, that's a huge swing in the game. Now only a 2k gold lead. I mean, the lead was already being eroded by the slightly better farming pace of USYD No Tinker, even before that disastrous engagement. Now, you have to imagine that window is looking half close. It's a lot less comfortable here for UOA. Now, it's not necessarily certain that Danilku can't build in such a way as to, you know, counteract the PA. It's not like one team has a clear-cut late game advantage, I don't think. But certainly with the way they were itemizing, the way they were playing, it looked like UAA were trying to maintain this early momentum that they had and really close out the game by about 30 minutes. That's a massive setback to have everyone die, and I guess they're just thanking their lucky stars they didn't also give up Roshan, probably mostly because they were able to kill that PA. That being said, you know, that fight you were looking to take, those kills you were hoping to get, were probably to open up the pit for yourselves. And now that looks a lot harder, especially if they lose Sizey again here. Another chain of disables coming out. And again, the team is spread apart trying to finish items. So this Night Stalker, Sizey has to be able to adjust his play. He's gotten 2 Memento Moris now in a row. It's definitely not unkillable. And, I mean, definitely... You're trying to make space, you're trying to spread the map, you're trying to out-farm. It's not even necessarily a massive gold loss for your team to die there when everyone else is farming efficiently. But now, you know, a lot of the remaining gold lead that you have is towers, and you can see USYD, they're ready to claim their own, you know, benefits package here, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Their own set of guaranteed bounties. Glyph, though, will push them back for now. They're still growing here. Loved, obviously, has finished the Deso now. Now queues up the BKB and the Shard. But, you know, until those are ready... I mean, Loved still has a long way to scale past that point, obviously. But those are the... We don't even have the core items up yet on your primary carry. All of their cores are kind of still recovering into this game. That helped... that fight, obviously, the last fight helped a lot. So Ramen Noodles now rocking a Blink Dagger as well as Balance. Balance has Blink BKB, so ready on the Mars. But, yeah, obviously, this team are perfectly comfortable getting a few more items under their belt, and it's kind of awkward because it looks like the Radiant have been trying to farm to get some more items. Okay, they've finished what they were looking for, I imagine. It was the BKB on Sizey. That seems like a big one. Also, full duration BKB ready on Danilku's Wraith King. They smoke, they shadow, they are running at their opponents. They need a big dub. Back their way. In they go. The Pangolier jumps out of the way. This roll's going to come to nothing. Actually, they do collapse onto Sir Ramen Noodles. He instantly dies. So, you know, continues to not be his game, really. Danilku ignores the courier, looking for the hero. Finds Turtle Frenzy. They exchange single target stuns. One of them is going to come out a lot better in the trade. So, was that enough? I have to wonder. It's enough to Roshan. 2 heroes in the ground for 30 seconds, but with their waves not exactly pushing in, you can see that the immediate reaction from Balance, once he saw the sort of shape of that smoke where the heroes ended up, was to immediately push in top wave to the tower and then consider backing off. But it looks like they're determined to try and go high ground. I think they can do a lot of damage to this tower, certainly with this Wraith King Desolator ready. And Sizey obviously contributing a fair bit as well. They didn't pop their BKB, so they're feeling confident. They want this high ground. And the tower goes down already. Did have some chip damage on it from before. So, actually, are they able to get this Rax? They're all alive on the Dire. They have to set up. No pre-BKB from Sizey. He's going to go down potentially. He's going to die. Activates his BKB at the end. So, the worst of all possible worlds. You have to have a bit more respect. And they're just caught lacking. How do you not BKB as the enemy respawns? I can't imagine you thought you were going to be given that Rax for free. In the end, they're not given that Rax at all, and they pay. Boy, do they pay. They're going to pay with the Roshan. So the decision to grade it up and go for not just the tier 3, but to try and finish the Rax, combined with slow fingers on that BKB, the Night Stalker has to be kicking himself there. But, I mean, don't kick yourself for failing to react to Blink Spear from Mars. That can be tough. I just can't imagine, with a 9-second BKB available, that you would need to wait and dodge a spell with it. With all of the instant stuns that can come out, you could have gotten Blink Pangolier rolled and stunned instantaneously out of fog. And you have to know that they're coming for you. They didn't buy back, they respawned, you saw the timer counting down. Just a crucial lapse from UOA in the worst possible time, in the worst possible game. This is their last chance. If they drop here, they will not see a Game 3, they will not get any more series, they are eliminated from Season 1 of Uni League Dota 2 here in the AEL. So, I mean, TK's played his heart out so far on this Mirana. Haven't seen any item progression in a while. Actually has finished his BKB. So that was 3 BKBs, and they still could not win that fight. Didn't even really come out ahead. Like, they finished off a tier 3 tower that was pretty low to start with. And then they gave up 3 kills and an Aegis to a PA who is just starting to come into the peak of her own abilities. Look at this. Queues up a Divine Rapier. if that doesn't say something about how the last couple of minutes have made USYD No Tinker feel. Obviously, game one was a big morale booster for them, but they were definitely on the back foot for this entire game thus far. And just the last couple of fights, I imagine, have them feeling much the way I have. A huge blow, even more than the sort of concrete difference it makes in the gold and XP lead between these teams, the sort of collateral on the map. Just the fact that UOA are making these errors, that they're giving up these deaths in the team fights, that they're accelerating the catch-up of the enemy carry. It's so worrying. And we see now tier 3 items being farmed by both teams. This PA has a Titan Sliver, one of the better ones that you could have, I imagine. Especially, you know, okay, there's not that many disables on the enemy team, but just the magic resistance is very good against all the sort of incidental magic that's coming out. With BKB as well, and the Aegis, you can see why Love might be confident to queue up a Divine. And now, I mean, they're pushing a different tier 3 tower now. Danelku in the front once again. Still no shard. Has to be careful how much mana he spends, how many swashbuckles he takes. But, I mean, I don't think it's a serious likelihood that he ends up without mana to reincarnate. Also holding the ult. Balance actually misses the spear back that turn. That could have been pretty huge. They pushed Danelku that deep into the base. I don't know if he's getting out again, even with 2 lives. But now with that on cooldown briefly, PA is not at this fight yet. They swap Danelku in instead. This time, they do not wait on the BKBs. And UOA are in the base. This might be their last best hope. And the PA is still not at this fight. They are trying to bring down the rest of their team. This is probably a blessing. Since she has the Aegis holder, she wouldn't be the priority target anyway. Only now does Love derive. Buybacks from the team to help support him. And he's on a killing spree. Picks off one. Actually, Aegis goes down. Danelku is the one who rolls the crit. Brings down the PA, but the team has fallen. Those buybacks are good enough. Danelku gets the Blink Dagger off cooldown just in time. That's so huge. Able to preserve both his lives. Definitely reincarnate would not have saved him there if he went down in the base. So that is a pretty brutal trade. Also, TK buying back there. Thought he might be needed, but the fight ends before he can arrive. He's gonna be able to farm, obviously. He has the room to try and recoup some of that lost money. But that is a blow economically. Unnecessary buyback obviously also puts it on cooldown. So if there is a similarly rough teamfight and balance, they're looking. They're sussing us out. They know that there's only a couple of cores alive plus an Earth Spirit. And they sense, I bet you want to farm here right now. Cruises to the triangle. And lucky enough, there was either enough Radiant Vision on the path out of mid lane, or TK just kind of Spidey sensed his way. Scooby Sense would be an interesting one. Spidey sensed his way out of that gank. So, man, the game absolutely hanging in the balance right now. Now the gold lead is back in favor of the Dire, and you can see the XP lead is massively theirs after how the team fights have gone. But the win probability is, even for the first time in this game, over the last couple of minutes, dipped in their direction, as well as, you know, the foreshadowed economic advantage of Loved's Battle Fury starts to come into play. They haven't even taken these towers yet, so you can only imagine what's going to happen once a few more of these tier 1 and 2 towers are taken by the Dire. But, speaking of towers, the map collateral is the one area remaining where UOA can still look to a proud advantage, can still pin their hopes of surviving and forcing a game 3 here in this elimination series. Exposed racks in the mid lane is a big deal. If they are able to actually take a like giving up that Aegis, I just can't believe how much of a risk they took and how much it didn't pay off there. How different this game could be if they hadn't, you know, lost that team fight, if not the team fight before. But hope still remains. Oh, they missed the stun. Danelku kind of jumping the gun a little bit there, but this is what happens when Sizey on the Night Stalker hasn't itemized for a Blink Dagger. You give a player like Sarama Noodles the chance to fast finger his way out of that gank, and he does. So another smoke/moonlight shadow opportunity goes begging. Great vision from the Dire, of course, to constantly remain aware. Even had the Sentry Obs combo up to detect that movement, so that's probably why he was primed for such a fast getaway. But yeah, I mean, they're hunting for that kill because they know now that there's no Aegis again. If they're ever able to take a fight where they can kill the PA, and she doesn't have an extra life, either from the buyback or the Aegis, that could be the game. Like, they can kill these towers very quickly, thanks to Danelku, but, that's going to be hard to have happen. Loved has farmed his way back to buyback. Hasn't had to use it yet. I think he bought out for his last couple of items, but now we're reaching the point in the game where the PA buyback is certainly a big deal. Definitely wants to be holding that money. Still has the Divine Rapier in the quick buy. I don't know whether that's legitimately the choice, but it could be. Never rule it out. And for what it's worth, still no MKBs being built on the enemy team. So Fingerfap just kind of getting picked off in the mid lane, announces to all and sundry the presence of USYD No Tinker. They are hungry for a swap, but Asian Turtle Frenzy doesn't quite have the range on that level 2 ultimate, even with the neutral item boosting it up. Going for that Ags. We'll have it soonish. 500 gold away. And that's going to be a big deal as well, obviously. Very, very important item. Making it even harder to kind of disrupt the team fight with the Night Stalker or the Potom by just blowing apart this backline. Although neither team has really made that their focus. The carries have definitely, and the mids have been targeted pretty heavily in these fights just to try and reduce their contributions. But it's becoming harder and harder to burst them down, obviously, as time goes on. And their crew items loved, even going to maybe pick up an extra courier here. That's Danilku's courier. I don't think it had any parts of the assault on it, but that is unfortunate that was left there dangling by the tower, by the Sacred Shop, especially as the tier 1 now goes down in the top lane, making it kind of a spooky no man's land to try and go out and buy your items from there. And a DD spawns outside the pit. No Roche yet, but that DD is obviously very important to either team. No one has vision of it yet. We'll have to see. I'm really interested to see what UA's move is here, because they've been playing passive for a couple of minutes. They're not playing into the Aegis anymore, so it's not as though they're dodging, like, a particular temporal window where they can fight better afterwards. If they're scared to fight now, I can only imagine they'd be more scared to fight later, but... Okay, TK, he's the one going for the MKB, which is interesting, because he's definitely the one who's more likely to be dead in a fight, but it does make sense to put it on the range here with the positioning tools. He's able to hopefully stay far enough out of things with that Grove Bow, and Leap, obviously, and maybe the invisibility even, to not be the first target in a fight, and he's going to be able to shut down the PA once she commits her blur. Might be a little bit harder once that Aghanim Scepter comes out and the resets are available, but you got to have some kind of plan, and at least they have some kind of plan. Danilku, I think he could finish Assault, but he's holding on to buyback on the Wraith King for now. They Moonlight Shadow, they're trying to make a play. No vision for them in the jungle, but they've sussed out where they are, where the enemy are regardless. And Sizey, he's in. He silences the Pangolier immediately, even without the blink. They get on top of him, tries to get away, so Ramen Noodles cannot slip the noose. Dies before he gets off the Rolling Thunder, and this is immediately a team fight win. It looks like for the Radiant. What can Love do on this PA? Always a danger. Trying to bring down WDK, but can't even manage that. Finally does, but it takes him another blink even deeper in, and he is not getting out of this fight. The triple kill for Danilku. The streak ends. The DD for Cadius in the bottle. The Moonlight Shadow. It all comes together, but most crucially, awesome pathing with that Dark Ascension and the Moonlight Shadow from Sizey able to get through. There were no Dire Wards up either. Only the one sentry thrown down on that high ground, I think even mid-fight. And as a result, he's able to emerge right on top of the key spellcaster from USYD No Tinker and completely take that Pangolier out of the fight. The second highest net worth on the team, certainly the highest impact spellcaster. The Mars just couldn't do enough. I said in the draft, it's his job to initiate, and every degree removed you are from being the initiator, the less his impact is, especially with this build, right? He's picked up the Wraith Pact, obviously a very prominent item right now, but it didn't do enough in that fight, and that could cost them. Ultimately, they're going to be forced to buy back, perhaps, on the PA. This Glyph definitely doing some work, but you can see, UOA, they understand how important that teamfight win was. They understand that they're probably not a great shot in this long game, and they were trying to put some pressure on the throne there to force the PA buyback. They do not manage it. Now, can they look to Roshan? Neither team has tremendous vision, but the better vision is the side of the Radiant. They're doing a fake back instead. They're trying to bait the move to Roche. Roche obviously still hasn't spawned yet. I don't think either team are fully aware. They do bait it! They're outside the base! Huge silence from the Night Stalker! Balance, he pops his BKB in arena, but it's purely defensive. Grimstroke's already dead. The Globalist trapped the Pangolier. He has no way to... He doesn't BKB to cleanse it. So Ramen Noodles, now he BKBs and gets the ult off. Can they turn this? It's deep in their base, which is a big advantage. Sizey bites off more than he can chew. He goes down. Asian Turtle Frenzy, though, he's isolated. There's several Dire Heroes dead without buyback. The Vengeful Spirit's not going to get anything done either. It costs him Fingerfap on the back line. Heroes just kind of picking off each other's weaker supports right now. Danilku, he loses his first life and his mid-bottom. Loved finds Cadius. That's the thing about fighting in the enemy base. There's no way for not Cadius, for TK playing for Katie, as Katie's my co-caster, there's no way for TK to be that outside the fight ace in the hole that they needed to answer Loved, and they get carried away again, UOA. They dive the base. That was a huge first initiation, the jump. And it is sometimes hard in those team fights to figure out when you should call it off. They really wanted it all. But for the second time in one game, UOA 5Headelaide, they get a bit too big brain for themselves. They had the opportunity to just fall back and take a Roche. But instead they try and set a trap. They think they spring it. And they end up trapping themselves in the enemy side of the map. And not only giving up a full team wipe, or a team fight in this case, the Wraith King did escape, but they give up the second Aegis of the game as well. Again, from a position where they had the control of the map. It's just about unforgivable in current Dota to give away Roshans like this. That's Aegis and Shard, and Aegis on a PA no less. A PA who now completes the Divine Rapier, completely fearless. So much danger here for UA 5Headelaide. Have they figured this out? Did they suss it out from the slow item progression on Loved? Did they perhaps see an item component? Did they glance on a ward as she emerged from the secret shop? I think she ran over that vision very briefly. Did they ping? I don't think they've seen this yet. Honestly, Loved, they're going to see it now. If they so much as glance at this PA, they're going to understand just how much trouble they're in for giving away that Aegis. I mean, maybe they thought that was their only shot. But if they go back and get an extra life on Sizey's Nightstalker, or more importantly, on TK's Bottom, I think they go very well in the base fight. Especially if they get their first kill on the Grimstroke on the steps, and maybe the Mars, and they fall back. But they're going to go in as they went in there. They go in now, chasing the Divine Rapier P out of the base. Look how fast Fingerfap goes down. Sizey BKBs. That's not going to keep you too safe from Loved. Even the mischance, not enough. Sizey trying to retreat on the Moonlight Shadow, but TK is already dead. No buyback. That's the mid-bottom. Dead for a second time. Sizey, the Divine Rapier dagger slams into his backside. That's the whole team down. And you have to imagine the hopes are sinking for UOA fans everywhere. 5Headelaide, Danilku, he's going to go down as well. This Divine Rapier Phantom Assassin is just too much. They bet it all on that base dive, on a couple of different team fights, and they burned out on all three of their all-in bets this game. Every decisive team fight bar one, going the way of USYD No Tinker, and that's just too much in a game that looked so promising for UOA. It was a good showing at least. You can't at least say that they didn't give it a crack. This is a team that's done just that all season, but after game one was so one-sided, and game two looked so much better, I really hope for a game three evening up. I mean, they're debating whether or not the GG is real, but at this point, there's 5 heroes dead, 3 of them for more than a minute. The GG is purely academic, and in this contest of academic institutions, it is University of Sydney who will be advancing in the lower bracket, courtesy of No Tinker. Congratulations to Loved and Balance, Ramen Noodles, Asian Turtle Frenzy, and Appa, all the boys. They do it, they get through here to the next round. Unfortunately, WDK and friends going home. This will be the end of their run in Season 1. It was a massive, massive series. Even though just 2 games transpired, USYD able to clutch it out in the end there. Really assured carry play by Loved both games. It looked shaky at the start. We saw flashes. Ultimately, though, this Potom pick, I mean, it had all the weaknesses that I expected of it. They definitely, I will say, you could see that this team likes Potom, right? They made great use of the Moonlight Shadow. TK solid killed Ramen Noodles in the mid, not knocking his individual performance, but the hero's just not built to do the job they needed it to do, which is be the police for Loved's PA and to hunt it down. Maybe they would have been better off with even something like a sniper or a Lena, something longer range naturally, or something else. Who can possibly say at this point the hypotheticals are not needed? What we should be looking to is the next round, USYD. They'll be playing up against, if I check the bracket quickly, they'll be going up against either RMIT Black or Looney Melb. Those seem like winnable matchups for them, especially after the showing they put on tonight, established the respect ban of the Ramen Noodles Coddle, and potentially even established the respect ban of this PA as well. The Balanced Mars had a rough second game, but overall, very good play on the hero. Clutch initiations when they mattered. Correct item builds for the situation as well, like the difference between game 1 and 2. I don't think we saw that Wraith Pack build out of him in game 1. but definitely just a team who are switched on right now, USYD No Tinker, and, you know, they've looked pretty great all season. We will see how deep their run ends up being in the bracket. So that's all she wrote. And, I'm not certain. The upper bracket final was going on the other stream. That's why I'm solo casting tonight, and KDS is not with me. I'm just checking in to see whether or not we're going to be jumping over to that game, because of course, if there is more Dota action to cast, we will be casting it. But as we wait for that answer, quickly thank our important sponsors who make all of this playoff action possible. So first of all, Predator. They are the gaming PC partner here at AEL. They're letting us conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming. They put power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience in every way. The quality and performance that Predator bring is essential to top-level esports gaming here in AEL. And of course, you can display all of that, whether you're watching or playing, on AOC monitors. They have just launched the first ever monitor crafted for League of Legends. And, you know, we're all fully developed men here in the year 2022, fully developed human beings who can, you know, understand the relative benefits of both MOBAs, right? We put the old war to bed. And if you want to play some League of Legends, this is the monitor to do it on. From the iconic hex tech design and logo to a specific game setting mode, optimizing for, I'd imagine, whether you're playing on the Rift or Teamfight Tactics, offer, you know, the in-game visuals at the highest potential level with a combination of AOC's monitor expertise and obviously the expertise of League of Legends creator Riot Games. So check out the Aegon Pro AG275 QXL today at au.aoc.com. I have to imagine it's pretty good for other games as well. And once you've done that, also make sure you pick up some Rig headsets. They're what it takes to win. Their headsets offer superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience, just like USYD have enhanced my Dota experience this evening, bringing us some awesome stuff. So RMAT Black versus Looney Melb is still going on, I believe, on the other stream at twitch.tv/AELUni. We're going to show you that in a second, so you can either jump across to that stream or we'll automatically be hosting it live here once I go off air. But make sure that you follow that channel as well as this one, twitch.tv/AELUni too, if you're not on the Twitch right now, perhaps if you're watching a VOD. And whether or not you are watching the VOD, make sure you also follow AEL on their other social platforms. The AU Esports League, that's AU, the letters, Esports League, or one word, is the URL for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And of course, if you're on Twitter following them as well, if you wouldn't mind, you can give me a follow as well. At A Wandering Bard for all of your esports needs. I don't just work on Dota, but other games as well. And AEL, you know, do Hearthstone for them as well. Do other card games like Magic the Gathering for ESL. Lots and lots of stuff happening. So wouldn't mind the follow if you like that sort of thing. If not, we'll be bringing you the upper bracket finals right now, cutting across to that best of three between RMIT Black and Looney Melb very soon. But for me, the Wandering Bard in this series, that's all she wrote. Good night, everyone.